Views expressed by Hoot and Holler storytellers do not reflect those of Blue Ridge PBS and may contain themes and language not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Blue Ridge PBS and Echo present Hoot and Holler, a live storytelling event recorded at the historic Grandin Theater in Roanoke, Virginia.
When I was 6 years old, I had my very first paranormal experience. It was right after my grandfather passed away, as I was staying with my grandmother for the weekend. I was watching television in the living room that was right beside the bedroom he passed away in a few weeks before. I heard my name, thinking it was my grandmother. And when I turned, my grandfather was right at the doorway, staring at me. I said, "Grandpa?" Very confused like, and he went into the bedroom, and the bedroom door slammed shut. My grandmother came running, trying to figure out what was going on. That's when I found out they made a pact with each other to always come back to say hi. Now, this wasn't my first experience I had as a child, but what propelled me into the paranormal world. I started investigating at the age of 13, going to old cemeteries that had claims of being haunted with an Ouija board, just trying to communicate with the deceased. I then started traveling all the way up north as far as Vermont, as far south as New Orleans, and all the way west from Arizona to California to visit the most haunted locations in the area. With that traveling, I have stayed at the most haunted locations like the Hawthorne Hotel in Salem, Massachusetts, the Andrew Jackson in New Orleans, and the famous Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, California. I started my Instagram page in August of 2021, A Haunted History, dedicating my time talking about urban legends and folklore and telling history of the most haunted locations in the United States. This has gained me nearly 180K followers on Instagram and 50K followers on TikTok. During this time, I met amazing people who provided me resources in getting what we call in the paranormal world, haunted objects. Now, haunted objects are exactly what it suggests, objects that are haunted. And how do objects become haunted, you may ask? The idea that objects can be haunted is a popular belief in folklore, paranormal studies, and various cultures. This concept suggests that certain objects may carry the spirit or energy of a deceased person or event, leading to unusual experiences or phenomenon associated with these objects. They are items such as dolls, trinkets, jewelry, that someone in this world may be attracted to when they were alive. After someone has passed on, a person who loved these objects may want to inhabit them to keep them safe and protected. I've always found this concept fascinating and decided to propel myself into learning and studying more about this notion. I wanted to prove that these hauntings are not malevolent, evil, or demonic that the media plays it out to be. Now, a fellow collector got in touch with me saying there was a doll who had vast history of paranormal activity that needed a safe place to be studied and monitored. I took this as a challenge for my studies. That's when I received Helen. Helen's a wax doll that was made in the mid-1800s. It is said that this type of doll was made in fondness of the owner, almost like they wanted a part of themselves to be alive even after they have died, which explains the history of the doll herself. The doll's owner was Helen McCullough. She was born in 1837 and got married to Dr. John McCullough. Helen loved dolls. She had a collection of them at her estate in Lexington, Kentucky. She actually loved them so much that in her will, She declared for them to be taken care of even after her death, especially this wax doll. Unfortunately, the McCullough family had tragedy after tragedy. Helen and John had 5 children, but only 2 of them survived past infancy. And then Dr. John McCullough suddenly passed away from asthma at the age of 40. Helen never remarried, and it is said that she had her dolls to keep her company once her 2 kids got older and left the home. When Helen died in 1906, that's when the paranormal experiences started happening. The dolls went to a family member to take care of and to keep them safe. It is said the daughters of Helen did not want the collection because it freaked them out too much. The family who owned the doll started noticing weird things around their home. They would hear singing. It is said that Helen was in her church choir. Voices, moaning, footsteps, and even gasping breathing, all coming from the doll's direction. They also noted that this little doll she came with would move from place to place around the home. They quickly found out that this doll was attached to the wax doll. After many, many years, she ended up in a museum in Pennsylvania. They claimed they had to put her in a locked cabinet to keep her from moving. Right after receiving the doll, she fell off the shelf and her head and leg broke off. Since she is extremely fragile, her extremities came off very easily. That's why she looks the way she does today. The museum said the activity around Helen was so severe, mostly because she was restless and didn't like the other spirits at the location. They brought in several investigators to figure out what was going on with Helen. After several investigations, there are reasons to believe that she is haunted by Helen and her husband, John. The group called EVPs, or what we call electric voice phenomenon, of someone wheezing, as if they had asthma. They even called a female singing after they asked Helen if she'd ever been in the choir during the time she was alive. The investigation also showed that whenever the small doll would be taken away, Helen would get very, very upset. They gathered from these investigations that everyone was correct, and she was just not happy at this location. When the investigators asked if she wanted to be someplace else, they got a resounding yes. That's when she came into my care in December of 2023, where I've also experienced these claims. I have heard labored, asthmatic breathing when nobody's around, which is what John McCullough died from, a female's voice whispering, tapping on a glass cabinet that I keep her in, and she has even moved things in that cabinet. Helen had a tag that I kept pinned onto her chest that has some information about her. It says, "Belonged to Helen Hill McCullough, grandmother of Helen and Lee Goldsboro." After doing some research, I did find out that Helen and Lee were her grandchildren from her eldest daughter. After cleaning the cabinet one day, I noticed that tag and pin laying right beside her. Did she know that she was finally at home and wanted it off? No matter what, I keep Helen holding the small doll. They are attached to each other and therefore should never be parted. Now you may ask, why have something like this in your home? Isn't it scary? Or don't you think it's an evil spirit? I feel like it is my duty to take care of these type of objects. Since then, I have become a caretaker of several more dolls and 2 paintings that caused another paranormal investigator's life hell. It is my duty to keep these objects safe, loved, and respected while I'm here. Spirits only want to be heard, and I make it my mission to make sure their story is told.